Hey friends, my name's Stevie Taylor. Welcome to the Gig Life Podcast. My guest today is Fabrizio Omodei, drummer, presenter, actor, a staple in the Australian music scene for well over 30 years now, having played with Richard Clapton, Daryl Braithwaite, Ian Moss, Jimmy Barnes, Jack Jones, Doc Nesson, The Angels, Paul Gray and Rick Astley. Cool, huh? He's got a really cool Sean Connery story as well. We had a good laugh. I really enjoyed it, and again, I hope you enjoy this too. Cheers. I think we're rolling. Fab Omodei.
Yeah.
How are you, man?
Good, man. How you going?
Yeah, really good. Welcome to the Gig Life Podcast.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Nah, too easy. Okay.
And congratulations too.
Thank you very much.
On getting
Thank
this
you.
started. I think it's
yeah,
awesome.
we'll give it a shot.
Awesome.
No, I appreciate being on the show.
My pleasure.
I'm just going to rattle off some names.
Yeah.
People that you've played with.
Yeah.
Right. Rick Astley, Delta Goodrem, Brian McFadden, Richard Clapton, Daryl Braithwaite, Ian Moss, Jimmy Barnes, Percy Sledge, Brian Mannix, the Eurogliders, Jack Jones, Chantoozies, Shannon Noll, Deni Hines, Doc Nesson, The Angels, Paul Gray, Wa Nee, Choir Boys, Doug Williams, David Campbell, Human Nature, and many more. How many more are there?
Oh, heaps,
fucking hell, man.
Heaps.
Hey?
There was a guy called John I played with once.
John, yeah.
Johnny Boy and Bill.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let's roll it right back.
Yeah,
right
man.
back to the start. Where were you born? Where are you from?
I was born in Italy. The whole family's from Rome.
Yep.
We came to Australia when I was 3. I was the last in the family to be born there.
Yep.
So my kids and my brother's kids are kind of first generation Australians. But
Yep.
but we came, like I said, we came here when I was 3.
Yep.
So I grew up here.
Yep. And when did you first get some sticks in your hand?
Well, it wasn't until I was about 14. I think year 9, year 10 in high school. But I was thinking back to it before, and there was a moment when I was younger, when I was about 8 or 9 and 10, we used to have vinyl records, and my older brother had stolen from school a pair of Perspex rods that were like drumsticks, right? Yeah. And I remember I used to pull out the records, I'd put a record on and take out that plastic sleeve that was inside it, and I'd put it on the lounge pillow and start playing along to
practice pad.
like a practice pad. But I didn't really associate it with I want to be a drummer. It was just one of those things, and it was always something about groove, But it wasn't until I was 14. I had a best friend in high school who was playing keyboards, and we used to, after school, we'd stop at his house. He was on the way home to my place, and I'd sit there next to him and watch him practice for an hour, and it was awesome. And after a while, he said, "Man, you should play something we can jam." And one thing led to another, and my older brother's best friend was a drummer at the time, and I remember being at his house when I was like 13 or 14, and he was playing, and I was just fascinated with it. And he said to me, he goes, "Why don't you get your dad to convince your dad to buy my drum kit? It was like $150. He goes, "And I'll give you some free lessons." So I did, and man, the day that I got that drum kit home, my brother brought it home. We set it up, and I started playing, and I don't know what it was. It was a magical moment. I'll never forget that moment. It was really cool. So I was about 14, I'd say, when I started.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And who were the? Did you have any sort of formal training to start?
No, I did. Once I started playing. Once I started, I straight away was going to lessons. And this is, I grew up out in Cabramatta.
Yep.
And there was a Barber's Music out there, and there was a teacher there, Norm, old bloke, and they had the teaching rooms out the back. So I started there, and he was good because he went through all the rudiments and all the.
My first teacher was an old man called Norm. He's in New Zealand.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that? Yeah.
What's that?
It's with
Norm.
Norms.
Norm, the old teacher guy.
Yeah.
So I did have some formal training, and then I went to him for about 2 years, and I learned a lot from him, and then stopped, and then went to another teacher, and for another little while. So I had various teachers along the way, probably for the first, say, 6 or 7 years of playing. And then I kind of, just by then it was do it yourself kind of thing.
Yep.
And then, you know, just influences really after that.
And who were those early influences?
Look, in the early days, because I had two kind of different, I like so many different things, but one was because of my older brother was right into a lot of Aussie rock.
Yep.
So that was one thing. But on the music side with my music mates, we were right into, and we're talking mid-80s there, we're right into things like Toto. I loved all Earth, Wind and Fire, George Benson, all that kind of, you know, funky / soul, groove kind of stuff. So that was a big influence on me. But there were also bands like The Police and things like that. I think by memory, I would say Toto and Jeff Porcaro was probably in those days my biggest influence.
Yeah, he's still my biggest influence.
Yeah, and he still is to this day.
Yeah.
And I mean, and for me, playing is, I've always been, all drummers are all about the groove, you know what I mean? But for me, it's always been about the song.
Yep.
I play more for the song
you can hear that
than anything else. Yeah, that's just, and I think that comes from just getting lost in the music and the groove in the music.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's just awesome.
Yeah.
I used to have, I spent a lot of time in a friend's studio, in my late teen years. A friend of mine had a studio, and I would work there for free in exchange for practice time on my own. I had the keys, and I'd spend nights there, like up till 3, 4 a.m. and during the day, just playing CDs.
Yeah.
I mean, I do practice, my rudimentary practice, but it was mostly just playing along to songs, and it was, you know, that feeling you get lost in it.
Yep.
It was awesome. Yeah, so that kind of my biggest influence was that kind of thing.
Cool. And when did you start sort of... You're in Sydney at this stage, obviously. Yeah, that's right, because you had your education...
Yeah, had my education here with Norm. Yeah. Good old Norm.
When did you... what was your first sort of gigging band?
My first gigging band would have been... I was around about the age of 18, and I auditioned for a covers. It was just a covers rock band. I was really excited, and it was a big band, 2 guitars, and they were older than me. When I say older than me, they were all in their late 20s or mid 20s and stuff. It was a pretty good band. I actually can't remember the name of the band. I auditioned for the band and I got it and started gigging. But at the same time, I did, because I reckon my apprenticeship, so to speak, was doing Italian weddings, believe it or not.
Hey, yeah.
Because a lot of the people I was hanging around, there were quite a few Italians that I was mixing with at the time, and they were doing wedding receptions, which was huge in the 80s and 90s. And then I started getting calls to do gigs. I remember one of my first gigs, I was about 16, and I absolutely fucking shat myself because I was so nervous, because the band, to me then, they were quite accomplished. In actual fact, the drummer I started getting lessons from, they were a really good band, and they said to me, "You want to come and do a gig?" And I said, "Yeah," and I was so fucking nervous. And I totally stuffed the gig up. Like, they could say, I remember the keyboard player one stage turned around looking at me, we were playing dinner music, and he's like, turned around and he goes, "It's okay, man, just relax." And I was sweating, I was grappling the sticks, you know, I couldn't relax, I was so nervous. And I remember hearing, at the end of the night, I heard a little while later that the owner had said, "Don't ever get that guy again."
Oh,
It was so bad, but I got past that. So it was kind of like I had the rock band thing, but I was doing a lot of Italian weddings as well. And I actually got we used to make fun of the Italian weddings and stuff, but in hindsight, I actually learnt a lot from doing those gigs, because you cover so many different styles, including reading.
Yep.
That's the other thing too. I learnt how to read early on, which actually helped me when I wanted to go full time.
Yep.
Because a lot of the gigs that I was doing required me to read,
Yep.
and unbeknownst to me at the time, I was just reading because that's what you do.
Yeah.
But it became a thing for me later. I realised, oh wow, if I didn't read, there was a whole bunch of gigs that I couldn't have done to sustain me, you know. So the Italian weddings actually provided a really good platform for expanding, I think, you know.
That's cool. As I said a couple of weeks ago, learn to read, kids.
I can't read novels.
Learn
but
to read, yeah. Okay. And where did that sort of... Oh, actually, you got sacked, didn't you, from that wedding band? Did you?
No.
Oh, you just couldn't go back to that venue?
No, I didn't get sacked because I was only filling in.
Yeah,
but
okay.
it was a long time before those guys called me back.
They called you back, okay.
Yeah, it was a long time.
All right, so
it all came good in the end. But that was a good learning curve. As horrible as it was at the moment, it was one of those things that the most frightening moments sometimes, if you put yourself in a frightening moment, it's a benefit for you.
Because you're kicking the arse, eh?
You don't want to fuck up. But,
No.
You know, you learn from it.
It takes you about 6 months to get over it. But
It did. Oh,
yeah,
man.
cool.
I went, yeah.
All right, and where to next?
So did that, and then I'd left high school. I did year 12 and stuff, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was playing, of course, but not necessarily doing a lot of gigs and stuff. But playing was a thing. Mm-hmm. But I never thought about making it a career or anything. So I had various jobs and stuff, and then I started working for a record company, a Melbourne local record company, and I was working in Sydney as a sales rep. And from there, I got an opportunity to work with Festival Records, which was obviously they're no longer around, but you know, a major record label, and they had big names on their books and stuff. And I was a country sales rep, so I'd get all my stock on a Friday afternoon, and I had a company car, I had everything I was making. It was really good pay. It was a great job, but I'd leave Monday morning and I'd be back Thursday night, and then go to the office Friday, pick up the next week's samples and all that kind of stuff. And the downside to it, and I was making cash, I was making a lot of money, and I was only like 20 years old, and it was awesome. I had a car, petrol paid for it. It was really cool working for a record company, but I was doing no practice. And come to the weekend, I'd go and do a gig, or I'd just want to play. And after about 6 months of that, one day I just thought, this is really getting bad, because I wasn't practicing at all. And I'll never forget this. I went out one night to watch Lucius Borich. Mm-hmm. He knows this story, I've told him. I was 20, 21, and I went to watch him at the Harbourside Brasserie, and I think him and I are the same age. He might be a year younger than me. And I went to watch him. I'd heard of him before and I'd never seen him. I went to watch him, and he blew my mind. He just absolutely blew my mind. Right there and then, I made the decision. The very next day, I went into the office and I quit. I spoke to my parents about it first, actually, because I was still living at home.
Did you ask them?
I didn't ask them. I told them what I wanted to do. This is what I'm doing. I'm quitting my job, because I was making really good money and all that, and they were really happy and stuff. And I went home and I said, look, I'm quitting my job. I'm going full time. And they were really supportive. They said, do what your heart wants.
Yeah, good.
And so I did. I quit and went full time, and just started practicing a lot every day. And then I'd pick up odd jobs here and there, like I was working behind a bar a couple of nights a week, and little things like that. But it was all based around music. That was the main thing. And then it just it grew from there, I suppose.
Yep.
It grew from there.
Mm-hmm. And who was your first, should we say, quote, big artist, big name you played for, unquote?
Well, big name, I don't know if I can say a big name, but it was, believe it or not, it was Elvis to the Max.
Oh, yeah?
And this was in 1995, I think it was. And it was, I'd done a lot of gigs and stuff like that, but this was a show.
Yep.
It was the first time I'd been asked to do a show, like a big show. It was a big band. It was like a 12-piece band at the time or something like that. It was a big deal. And although it was Elvis tunes, it was all the live stuff, and I got a phone call saying you've been recommended. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah. And I was so freaking nervous about it. But that was the first kind of biggish gig, in the sense that it's big production, numbered audience. It was a big gig, and there was a lot to do, drum wise. Yep. It was pretty full on. But I buried myself in that, and that was good. I think my first artist. My memory's shit, Stevie. But I think by memory, my first potential named artist might have been Richard Clapton.
Cool.
Which was late 90s.
Awesome.
And that was funny because my brother, growing up, my brother was a Richard Clapton fan.
Yep.
And my brother's not in the music scene at all. Him and I are chalk and cheese in that respect. But when I got asked to do his gig, I straight away I rang my brother. and said to him, "Hey man, guess what? I'm doing the Richard Clapton gig." And his response, I'll never forget it. It still makes me laugh. His response was, "Man, you made it." He said, "I knew you would. You finally made it. Yeah, see, all that practice paid off. You're there. You made it. You hit the big time."
Yeah, that's cool.
That's how he perceived it, and for me, it was a joy to hear that. It was kind of, I looked up to my brother and stuff, and so it was a nice thing. I think he would have been the first kind of name thing that I.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that was great. And the funny thing is, the very first gig, we didn't actually have time for a rehearsal. And I turned up to the very first gig and just played it unrehearsed with him.
Yep.
But I knew all the songs already.
Yep.
I just knew it from growing up, listening to him, and because of my brother. I knew all the songs. I was behind the kit having a great time. It was just awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, there used to be this little old drum shop in
Yes.
Surrey Hills called
Yes.
Billy Hyde's Drumcraft.
Billy Hyde's Drumcraft.
Right, that's where I met you the first time.
Yes, that's correct.
I think I'm not the only one to say this, but we missed that place, and it's a real shame that it's not there anymore.
It was a real community.
It was a community.
It was a beautiful place in that respect. It was a good feeling, good vibe.
For me, it was like once a month. It was a church for me.
Yeah.
I'd go down there on a Sunday once a month to grab my month's stock of sticks and heads and stuff, and
we'd
just
you
hang
up with
and
kits and stuff. And
yeah.
No, that was a great time of life actually, working at Hyde's.
Hang on, just go back to stitching up. I did go in with a pair of sticks and walked out with a set of Pearl Masters. See, bloody good salesman.
Yeah, well, that was a thing for us. We had Gary Hyde always saying upsell.
Yeah.
But the good thing about Gary was it was the thing that I loved about it, and why it was good is because it was an honest place.
Yeah.
Like it was, and he was a stickler on. Gary used to say to us, obviously it's a business. He needs to make money, of course.
Yep.
However, he was big on not stitching people up in the sense of, he wants honest sales.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it was the product that we always carried was good. It was always good product, and it was, it could sell itself. However, we it was an honest bunch of guys, like.
Yep.
And I think that was the thing about it. He always wanted us to look after people, and we just did naturally.
You did. Oh,
we looked after people. Because for me especially, I used to just treat anyone like it was me. Because I'd been stitched up before I worked there. I'd been stitched up once before.
Oh, right.
On a sale. I can't remember where it was, but I remember being stitched up, and I felt pretty dirty about it. And then when I started working at Hyde's, I think that stuck with me, and I thought, you know what, I wouldn't do that to someone. So I used to treat it like I was selling something to myself in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you'd upsell and you try and push
You would,
through,
but
of course.
Still,
but it wasn't.
prices,
It was never a dishonest sale.
Not
so
at all.
To speak,
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And are you allowed to say why that place sort of disappeared?
Well, what happened in the end, I think. I was there for a good part of 10 years, believe it or not. I wasn't full time, but then the last couple of years, I actually got asked to manage. You were
assistant manager there, I think.
Yeah, no, it was because Tony, who was manager, he stepped up and became overlooked the state stuff.
Oh, right, okay. Yep.
So they pulled me up to be the store manager.
Yeah.
And that's shortly. That's when it started. To about 2 years after that, what happened was, I think it was the people who've got their fingers in many pies, like Bunnings and all that kind of stuff, I believe, conglomerates, saw this thing was, because this Billy Hyde's was growing nationally, it was huge, and they saw an opportunity, another business opportunity, and they went to Gary and basically said, we've got all this money, and we want to invest in your company. We don't know anything about it, but we've got the capital and we can see it growing. And Gary was in a position where it grew so big it couldn't go. It needed something really big injection to grow, I guess. And so there was a deal where they bought in and stuff like that. And then Gary ended up. This is obviously I'm being very general about it. Because I don't know the ins and outs of what went on behind closed doors. But then Gary eventually decided to sell out. And this is, his father's business, which Gary actually turned into what it was from the 80s.
Right.
turned it into this monster that it became. He was so good, such a good worker, good businessman. But he decided to sell out, and he pulled out. And it was also at a time where a lot of online sales were coming through.
I was going to say
and
online.
it was starting to hurt.
Yep.
Because people could buy this product online from overseas for a cheaper price. The downside was you don't get the service. So people would still come in because they want the service. And also when you buy something online, you don't really know what you're getting until it arrives and stuff like that.
Yep.
However, the online stuff started hurting a little bit. And so Gary pulled out, and he the minute he pulled out, maybe 6 months later, it began a downward slide.
Yeah.
And it just continued. Then Allen's bought in.
Allen's, right.
And it just diminished.
Yep.
I mean, that combined with online sales and the internet becoming, bringing the world closer, you could just pick up stuff online, and a lot of people doing that. And so the business slowly just kind of fizzled out, unfortunately, but that's the way of the world, I suppose.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got Pete and Damo over at the co-op now.
Exactly.
So they're doing
great.
They're doing the thing,
co-op and the drum co-op on Enmore Road.
Yep.
There, and that's a great little store. It's great because there's remnants of Billy Hines in there.
That's the feel, yeah.
And those two guys are awesome. So it's really good that they've got that, and Damo's doing well with it.
Yeah.
You know, considering it's not a huge store as in size wise.
Yep.
He carries a lot of stock.
It does, yeah.
You know, but he's good. They're really good operators. It's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. So the first name I read out that you played with was someone that people might know. Rick Astley. Never going to give you up.
He's never going to give me up.
Never going to give you up.
He's a liar.
Yeah.
No, I love him.
Tell me about that.
Rick Astley.
Was that recording?
No. That was just
tours,
purely live tours
here
in Australia.
Yep.
So I got a phone call from Paul Gray. Rest in peace. I love Paul Gray. I miss him. But I did a lot of work with Paul Gray. But this was one of them. Paul Gray was asked to put a band together for Rick Astley's Australian tour.
Yep.
And he got me, Victor Rounds, and John Bettison, who's a guitarist, singer, and also Nick Pringati, who's now in Melbourne, keyboard player. Put that together, and I was excited. At first, I of course I said yes, that'd be great, that'd be awesome, and I had a bit of a chuckle because it was another one of those 80s. You know, and he was big in the 80s.
Were you thinking legacy act?
Yeah.
Kind of.
That kind of thing.
Club act.
Kind of a club act thing.
Yeah.
No, I knew it was the real Rick Astley and I knew what it was, but I wasn't sure, what it would be, how big it would be and whatever. I just thought in the back of my head, without any disrespect, I thought it's another 80s act trying to revamp himself, or themselves. Right. And he was huge in the 80s. I remember him in high school. He was massive. And anyway, so we learnt the stuff. With the gig was on, they sent us some material. We did all our own music, our own charts and stuff. And the first gig was in Melbourne, and we flew down the day before the first gig, and there was a studio that was booked out so we could have a day's rehearsal with Rick. We hadn't even met him yet. And we're down there, and he walks into the room, and straight away, from the minute he said hello, I said hi, I shook his hand. I thought, I love this guy. He's just, there's an energy about him. He's just, and as it turns out, he's so many acts that are really good. But as far as people are concerned, he was one of the nicest acts I've ever worked for. Just in personality, and he's so accommodating. He's not pretentious. He is himself on and off stage. There's no ego. There's no anything like that. He's a real sweet guy. And you just can't help but love the guy. He's just one of those people that, you meet him and even talking about him, I smile. He's such a lovely guy. And he walks on stage and the audience get that as well. And he gets them eating out of the palm of his hand. Yeah. It was one of the most enjoyable gigs.
If I could take a photo of your face right now while he's telling the story, he's really smiling, he's nearly crying.
He's
bloody
great.
Rick Astley.
He was good, and it was always good to do a gig like that. He came out twice.
Yep.
We did 2 tours with him, and I've sent emails to his manager a couple of times just for various things, and said, bring Rick back, man, come on.
Come back, yeah.
One, because who doesn't want another gig, but it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and the band was great.
Yep.
that band, actually, the Rick Astley band, then John Bettison, the guitarist, he then was asked to put a band together for the cruises, which are the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line that comes out every kind of October, November out of Sydney.
Yep.
They do their music cruises, Rock the Boat, Cruise and Groove, that kind of thing. And John Bettison, it was the same year that we did the first tour. And John Bettison just went, yep, I've got the band. And he just basically used us, and we went on, and we've done it every year.
Oh, right, and you're doing it again this year?
Yeah, we're actually, in about 3 weeks' time,
3 weeks? Oh,
we're
great.
back on again.
Awesome.
That's great. Unfortunately, Paul's not with us anymore. Which
He passed away.
He passed away, and that's left a real hole in many people's lives in the music community.
I met him, can't remember if it was last year or the year before. Was it actually the 80s? Was that the name of the show? Yeah. Yep. You guys played at the Gaimea pub.
Oh, yeah.
We played support when I was playing for Endless.
Right.
Yeah, in the summer. We were playing support, and we sort of played off to the side.
That's right.
And you guys had the stage there, and I just remember I was being there for sound check, and I remember watching you weren't happy with the sound guy. I was just sitting back watching him, and he just couldn't get it right. And they were slow and. Yeah. Anyway, but that's why I met Paul and Brian Mannix and Scott Kahn and yeah.
That's a good show too.
Killer band. You guys are fucking awesome band.
That's a really good gig. Yeah, it's a good band. That show, because they're based in Melbourne.
Yep.
So they have a Melbourne band, and I think they've got a Brisbane band as well, and we are the Sydney band.
Yep.
But that comes up every. A few times a year.
That's cool.
And that's a great gig to do.
Cool.
Also, because it's all the 80s stuff that, for me, a lot of this stuff that I do is because I was in high school in the 80s, so it's always has a nostalgic effect.
I gotcha, yeah.
Yeah.
And are you sort of the band leader?
No. Oh, well, I wouldn't say band leader, but MD, yeah.
MD, sorry.
Yeah, counting it. Well, because most of it's to a click as well.
Tracked, yeah.
Most of it's to track, so...
Yep.
So, yeah. I mean, MD. I'm counting the songs in as well.
Counting the songs.
Yeah.
So any drummer that counts in a song, mate,
you're an MD, mate. You're an MD. Don't worry about what all the other musos say.
Yeah.
Mate, without us, they sound like shit.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Now another one, Doc Nesson.
Yeah.
Now, did you play Doc? What have I got here? Red Phoenix, is it the name of the band? Yeah. So that was sort of a solo solo.
Yeah,
thing?
that was.
Did you play with Angels as well?
I did.
Oh, you did. Okay. Awesome.
What happened was Peter Northcote was playing with the Angels. It was the Angels, right? And so it was Doc Nesson and Jim Hilburn, who was the bass player in the Angels. Mm-hmm. Then it was Peter Northcote, Jay Stewart on keys, and David Lowy, who is Frank Lowy's son. Magnate, Westfield's Magnate. And they were doing the gig, and they were also doing the Red Phoenix thing on the side, and what it was is they were just writing tunes.
Yep.
And something happened with the drummer, they weren't happy, I don't really know what happened there, but Peter Northcote rang me one day and said, hey man, do you want to come in and record a bunch of songs with Doc Nesson, blah, blah, blah. So I went in there and we did that, and then just from that they said, do you want to do the gig? And we had a bunch of Angels gigs for 6 months or 12 months, while we were also writing and recording the Red Phoenix stuff. And what it was, do the Angels gigs, and we slowly incorporate a couple of tunes of the Red Phoenix just to give them, road test them a bit.
Yeah.
And then we recorded the album, the Red Phoenix album, properly, and it was released and stuff. But unfortunately, at the time, Doc was going through stuff. He had health issues and stuff, which eventually, I think, was the cause of his passing away. And the whole thing folded, unfortunately. But we were doing that for about 2 years and stuff. We even went to the... It was funny because there was a lot of funding involved because David Lowy was involved. He would pay for everything.
Oh, yeah, right.
It was an era for me. It was a time where I actually felt like a super rock star.
Yeah.
Because we'd fly around Australia in his Learjet. And we'd do that kind of stuff because he had
picked up on the runway, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
man,
real rock star kind of.
Yeah.
I used to laugh. It was awesome. And we recorded the album. We recorded here in Sydney at tracked down studios, Fox. We did the drums, bass, and all guitars here. But then the producer was a guy called Terry Mannix, who in the States, who had done Zeppelin 3, I think, and all sorts of big names. But he was the producer of the Angels in the 90s. Mm-hmm. He had done all their stuff then, and so they used him again. They did he had a studio in the Bahamas, Compass Point Studios, where they did Back in Black and all Bob Marley stuff. It's a famous studio. And they did the vocals for the album over there. Mm. And the manager rings me and says, hey, David wants everyone to go over to the Bahamas to record the vocals. And I said, cool, I don't sing. He goes, yeah, I know, but he wants everyone there just to hang out. Okay, no problem.
Hashtag gig life.
This guy's got more money than anyone we know. You know what I mean? Like, and it's fantastic. He was never, he wasn't scared to use it, which was great.
It is, yeah.
Put us up in this brand new place. I think there was 8 rooms in this estate thing on the beach, and we had our own room. I actually met Sean Connery. This is a great story, man.
Yeah, go on.
Because Sean Connery lived down the road, and he was friends with Terry Mannix, and he'd go into the studio to do voiceover stuff every now and then.
Sean Connery did?
Sean Connery did, yeah.
Serious.
But this is one of my favourite moments of, stars in your eyes kind of moments. Because I got up one morning, and on the floor that I was on this apartment complex, this resort, it was a resort, I walked out, and that's where the restaurant kind of was, overlooking the ocean and stuff. And I walked out to one morning just to have a coffee, maybe grab some breakfast. The guys were all down in the studio doing work. And I walked out, and there was no one in there except 3 people sitting at a table. A guy, a girl, and Sean Connery. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh shit, there's Sean Connery. Went and got myself a coffee, and I'm trying to figure out. I knew that I had a way in to talk with him because of the studio. I knew there was a connection. I thought, I'm going to use that connection to say hello. Anyway, I saw him stand up and say goodbye to these 2 people, and I went straight over to him and said, oh, Mr. Connery, sorry to interrupt you. My name is Fab. I introduced myself.
You called him Mr. Connery?
I did. I said, Mr. Connery. Did I say Mr.? Yeah, I think I did, Mr. Connery. I was just nervous. I couldn't believe it. What do you call this?
Shawnee!
Hey, Shawnee!
Shawnee!
Connors. Yeah. Anyway, introduced myself, and I said, I'm here recording at Terry Manning's studio. And he's like, oh. And his eyes lit up. Oh, Terry, yeah, cool. And he's like, sit. I won't do his voice because I can't.
Yeah.
Sit down. Have a coffee with me. And I couldn't believe it. He said, sit down, let's have a coffee. Wow. And so I sat there, and I don't have any evidence, any proof, because I didn't have iPhone then, and there was no one in the room.
Yeah.
And we sat for about 20 minutes and just talked, me and Sean Connery. And the whole time, I don't even know what we fucking talked about, because the whole time I'm sitting there, all I can think of is, fuck, my dad is Sean Connery, man. Fuck. Anyway, I got an autograph from my mum, because she was a big Sean Connery fan.
Yeah.
And we said goodbye. I went to my room, he took off, and I went back to my room to have a shower. I had a car there as well. I was going to have a shower, take my time, and then head down to the studio. So I did that. Drive down to the studio, and I get there about 45 minutes later. And as I'm walking into the front of the studio, Sean Connery's walking out. He's stopped in to visit with Terry on the way, and all the other guys in the band were there. He's walked out as I'm walking in, and the other guys are all milling about, Sean Connery. And as he's walking out, he looked at me and goes, oh, I'll show you, Fab. I went, see you, Sean. Take it easy. And the band
your mate see you?
The band looked at me, well, what the fuck?
Yes.
Said, yeah,
man.
Sean, mate. We're going back.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That's
really
that was
cool.
A great moment.
That's awesome.
For me.
Really cool.
Yeah. Sean Connery still talks about that today, by the way. Anyway, moving right along.
Now, Ronan Keating and Take That. Did you play with Ronan Keating?
No, we did Take That.
You did Take That, yep.
What did we do? Was that it was just like a one-off thing. It was just a performance of a couple of songs, I think. I can't remember. Ronan Keating, I don't put him on my bio because I mimed. I did 2 performances with Ronan Keating, two TV performances, and they were friggin' mimes.
They were mimed, okay.
So, although I had to learn the song and I was actually playing it, you can't really put that on your credit.
Right.
You can't put a mime on your credit.
Still a cool fucking story.
You could, but you just fucking put mime.
Still a cool story. Leaving it in there.
Brackets. Yeah, leave it in there. Just for those at home, kids, miming is... You can put that on your resume.
It's okay.
Just write mime. That's all.
Brilliant. Now, you've had a couple of bands that you've put together, sort of covers bands.
Yeah. Well, there was
Mr. Fabulous.
Mr. Fabulous.
Yep.
Yeah, that was because we do a lot of work. We were doing a lot of work together. Me, Christo, Pangupa vocal. He's a great singer. Mm-hmm. It was me, Christo, Chris Campbell's guitar, who I work with a lot, and Dario. Mm-hmm. Actually, me, Chris, and Dario do a lot of work together.
Would those guys be on the podcast? You reckon they'd be keen to?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. And they've got more stories to tell than I have. I can tell you now.
All right.
But yeah, they're those two, Chris and Dario, are I mean, there's a lot of good players, but I work with them more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Chris and I actually go way back, over 20 years. We've been best mates. We were in a band together, Originals band together in the 90s. Yeah. With Andre and Richie Vez.
Right. First time I ever saw Dario play was at Kathy Freeman Park, Olympic Park.
Oh yeah.
I think it was was it a Beatles show? I think it might have been a Beatles show, and it was one of those summer nighttime festival type things.
Yeah.
And he was playing bass, and I pretty much watched him all night. He didn't look at his guitar once. Yeah. He just doesn't.
He doesn't.
He doesn't need to look.
He's one of those guys, man. It's just an extension of him.
I know. It just blew me away.
Yeah, he's. There's, with no disrespect to other bass players, there's so many good bass players that I've worked with, and they're really good. Yep. Dario's got something about him that's always been, for me, he just, to me, he's the guy that makes a band sound good.
That's cool.
He can make a band sound good. I think bass guitar in general is underestimated a lot.
Yep.
A good bass player, and of course a good drummer is required to,
I know.
Bass is really underestimated, I think, in that respect, because what he brings to a gig, to a song, to everything is just awesome. He's just phenomenal. Actually, I was telling you the story about Lucius Borich. Mm-hmm. First time I saw him and changed my life. Mm-hmm. Dario was on that gig. It was actually the first time I saw Dario play.
Right, okay.
And we're talking 91, I think, or something like that.
Yep.
It's a long time ago. I knew who he was already, but I'd never seen him play and stuff.
And he plays Baby Animals now, doesn't he?
He does now, amongst a lot of other things. But Baby Animals is his thing. But we still get to work a lot together, which is awesome. Well, kind of weekly, I suppose.
Oh, great, okay.
It's great. But that Mr. Fabulous band was just something we put together. I think we were getting gigs at... I'm not sure if it started from the Monkey Bar in Balmain or the Piano Room in the Cross or something. But, just put together this band to get more work and stuff. And we did a few corporates and stuff like that. And, but we worked together a lot. It was just a name, throw a name at it, so we had something to use and stuff. Took some photos, but we didn't do anything, major with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I've been in a few covers bands over the years, but I suppose most of my, as most musos today especially, that are working a lot, you're not really in a band only. Yep. You got to spread yourself a little bit.
Spread yourself, yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your acting.
Sure.
You're an actor and a presenter.
Yeah, that's right. That was something that came late, in the sense that acting's something that's always been something that I was attracted to, but never did anything about it because it was always music and stuff. And and then when I was in my mid-30s and stuff, I went and did a presenter course at NIDA, and it wasn't anything you just pay your money and you do the course, and it was like a 3-month course, I think, and it was really cool. But because I did that, I was on their books and stuff, and then later that year I got a mail out from NIDA, and they had the screen actor course coming up next year, the following year, and it was something that you had to audition for, and you only get in, you audition, and if you get accepted, you get accepted. And I was married at the time, and my wife then, Denise, she said to me, because I saw it and I went, oh wow, look at that actor course, I'd love to, because she knew that I loved the idea of acting, just never did anything with it. And she encouraged me to go for the audition. At the time, I was like 37, 38, and it's not something, not that it's not something you pursue at that age, but it's not a common thing to pursue something. You know, acting is something you do, like music, you start off young and you grow. And I said to her, man, what am I going to do? I'm going to, too old to do that at the time. And she's like, no, just do it. And she encouraged me to go. So I did. I auditioned. And I remember the audition process went over the space of like 3 days because they had something like 400 applicants. And to my absolute surprise, I got in. They only had 30 spots. And I got in. I couldn't believe it. And I was I wasn't the oldest in the class, but I was like second oldest. And the rest of them were, in their 20s and stuff. But I got in and I started. And I remember the first day of class, I had that feeling of those goosebumps. And I thought, man, I'm meant to be here. This is so good. I really enjoyed it. And I did it. And that went for a couple of years, that course. And then I finished that, did an acting show reel and stuff to shop for an agent. Got an agent. And I'm still with that same agent, Lucas Mann. He's a legend, Dan. And I've been just doing that ever since. I kept studying. I worked with different acting coaches, acting teachers along the way. But the acting thing is funny because, we were talking before we started this podcast. We were talking about expanding ourselves, doing other things. Yep. And this is one of those things where, it's another facet of what I do, I guess. Yeah. But it is actually, on a financial note, it actually saved me a lot of times in the sense of when it's not saved me, but when any time that music has been quiet, the acting thing seems to step in and things happen and whatever. And it's been really good. I'm still doing it now, and I'm actually going back to classes soon.
Brilliant.
Just to keep the wheels greased. But I've done a lot of guest spots at TV shows, Home and Away, and Redfern Now, Crownies, and all that kind of stuff. And
you're the fresh food.
Yeah, that was actually the best
guy from Woolworths.
One of the best contracts I've ever landed was
right.
That was the Woolworths fresh food presenter.
I might put a couple of those. I'll find those Woolworths videos on YouTube, and I'll put them in the links.
Yeah, put them on, mate. Put them on. I got that. That was a great gig because it was a 1 year contract. Yeah. And Woolies have got more money than they know what to do with sometimes because they threw money at it and big money at it, and I got paid up front. My agent rang me and said, "You are number one on speed dial at the moment. I love you." It was a really good. It was a good contract, a good score. Brilliant. And it ran for a year. Like we did, we must have done about 150 odd ads that year. Yeah. But it was great because I was only working. It was sporadic. I might do 2 days of filming a week, and that's it. And then the next week they'd fly me somewhere else to a farm or something and do another day filming. Yep. So it was only basically they locked me out for 12 months, and used me however they wanted. Right. But it was so easy. It was just the most I ever did was 3 days in a row. Right.
Did it ever filming. when you said locked you out then, does that mean
I couldn't do any opposing ads?
Yep. Could you still do music?
Oh yeah. No.
Right. Yep.
I could still do music and I could still do any film and TV.
Okay. Yep.
But commercials,
gotcha.
They locked me out from doing any other commercials for that time.
Fair enough.
Or at least anything that was directly competitive.
I gotcha.
But I think just because they paid a lot of money, so just out of goodwill. Yeah. My agent and I just thought, well, that's cool. We don't.
Cool with that, yeah.
Unless something major comes along, you can go for it. But they basically locked me out from doing anything competitive because they wanted it to be someone who looks like they work for Woolies. Yep. Basically, and that's what it was. And it got to a point where I'd go into Woolies stores and because no one knew if I did or if I didn't, and staff would be like, "Oh, you work for Woolies? Where do you work?" And I'd say, "Well, actually, I don't."
You walked in with your apron.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. Where I was living at the time, there was no Woolies close to me. The closest thing was Coles.
Oh, right.
I don't know if I should say, it's too late now. They're paid. I'd go do my shopping at Coles.
Oh shit!
Not a lot, just a couple of times. But
Yeah.
I thought if anyone recognises me, that's it. And one day I was at the counter, like buying a couple of things at the counter, and the girl at the checkout of Coles, she looked at me, she goes, "You're the Woolies guy. What are you doing here?" And I just, man. That was it. I didn't go back in there again.
Did you take a Woolies bag into Coles? Or?
Yeah, I should have
Rebel.
worn the green apron too.
Rebel.
Yeah, rebel. Yeah, such a rebel.
Cool. Now, you still playing a lot these days?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, still playing. It's always is my main thing. But I'm doing other things. I started a t-shirt label which has been put on hold for the moment because I do a lot of artwork, a lot of drawing.
Yeah. I'll put some links to your art too in the show notes of this. So
Thank you.
Yeah,
awesome.
no problems.
I've been doing a lot of drawing lately in the last couple of years. But the t-shirt thing kind of got put on hold just because, I suppose, I don't know. But that's the beauty of that thing is it's my own project. It can stop and start whenever it wants. It's just totally up to me what I want to do with it.
Yep.
And putting some effort back into the acting as well, but the drumming is always there.
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
it's a constant.
Yeah.
I think it'll always be a constant, but
absolutely.
it gets to a point where I don't know. I'm starting to look later in life and stuff. I'll always play.
Yeah.
It's not even that. I think it's just because of who I am. I've never been just stick to one thing.
Yep.
There's other things that I like to do, so I do other things.
Yep.
Jack of all trades.
Master of none.
That's right.
Master of fucking
But I'm a
all.
good Jack.
Yeah. Good one. Now, do you find yourself watching a lot of the younger players coming up?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I'm often looking at different things online and stuff. I don't get out a lot to see gigs.
Yep.
I mean, it's just the nature of a lot of working musos don't get a chance to get out to see much, I suppose.
Yeah,
I mean, I do, but not as much as I suppose I would like to.
Yeah.
But I do check out a lot of drummers and up and coming drummers too.
Yep.
There's and also because it's just fucking inspirational. Some of the stuff. I mean, there's stuff that some guys play that I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, but still.
But I love it.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that we're in a time of life and have been that we have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have all this stuff that you can see stuff.
Yes.
You can just go online and Google and watch anything you want, and I do watch a lot of stuff, and it's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to see Toto in January.
You are, yeah.
There's a drummer, Shannon Forrest.
Shannon Forrest, yeah, he's a fucking monster.
He's very. I say this because I'm thinking of YouTube. I was looking him up the other day, and realised just how much.
He's very Picaro.
Very Picaro.
Yeah,
which is
I think
awesome.
that's why they got him there.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, I saw the last two times Toto have been out. I went to see them. Saw them at the Metro.
With Keith Carla?
No. That was Simon Phillips.
Oh yeah.
And this is when Mike Picaro was still alive.
Oh yes.
So I got to see him on bass, and then
that's awesome.
The last time they were here, they played the Enmore.
Yep.
Simon Phillips, he had like a Tama acrylic kit.
Oh wow.
His big HMS
Yeah.
Phillips acrylic
Beautiful.
drum kit, yeah. And Lee Scalar was playing bass.
Oh, he's amazing.
Fucking
It's
unbelievable. Yeah.
You know that story about Lee Scalar, how when the first gig that he did, because there are people out there that will know the story better than I will. So sorry if I get this wrong, but there was I think they were in France or somewhere, and something happened with Mike that he couldn't do the gig, and they called Lee Scalar in, and he learnt the show within like 2 days or something, or something maybe less than that, and he was up doing the gig. We have a pussycat in the room.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's getting the
purring.
Yeah, I think everyone would have heard that. She just went up to the microphone.
Yeah, that's not me or
this is
Stevie,
snowing.
folks. But he learnt the stuff in something ridiculous, like a day or two, and he was up there playing it like he owned it. It's just amazing.
He is amazing.
It's not an easy gig to fill in.
No, that's right. Another story I heard about him, he'd do these sessions and then he'd get these disgruntled producers.
Yeah.
And he's got the switch on his bass and he calls it the producer's switch. Right, so the producer will go, it's not working, it's not sounding right. Lee, you've got to change something. So, all right, so he'd stand up and he'd flick the switch.
Right.
And he'd start playing the song again. The producer would go, yep, that's it, beautiful, that sound is perfect.
And there was nothing on
Nothing
that,
connected to it, eh?
I love that.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
The placebo switch.
The placebo switch, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Now, how do you see the music industry these days? Obviously, a lot different.
It's a lot different to what it was. It's, you know, without burying my head in the sand or living under a rock, I try not to focus too much on it.
Yeah.
I try to, you know,
just from observation. You know,
but from observation, I can see the changes this year alone. I can feel the changes. You know, there's just talking to other people. There's a lot of people that are not gigging as much as they need to or would like to.
Yep.
You know. And I mean, you know, here in Sydney, the whole lockout law now, it's been a couple of years. That's really hurt the gigging, live gigging scene. Venues just closing doors or stop having bands and stuff like that. There's more kind of duo stuff, which doesn't help us drummers.
No.
So I don't. It's, you know, I don't think it's healthy. I can't say that the industry is good, you know, with a plethora of work and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that just aren't working enough. And, you know, I know a lot of people that moved to Melbourne.
Right.
Because, you know, the gig scene down there is supposedly more affluent. There's more, you know. There's
a lot of people are moving.
Or up north.
Up north.
Yeah,
Gold
I've
Coast,
had a few people moving up to the Gold Coast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not? If you're not going to work much, you might as well be at the beach.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's it.
But I'll get some sun on you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, you know, I mean, look, Australia's always been, let's face it, Australia is a sporting nation.
Yep.
It's not high regard on the music scene thing. It doesn't really, it does, compared to the rest, in comparison to the rest of the world, it doesn't support the arts industry in general as much as say, Europe would or something like that. I remember touring Europe and being astounded in the sense of doing gigs and going, wow, the level of support and just general appreciation of music, full stop.
Yep.
Just whatever it is, there's a culture there. There's an appreciation for the arts, for music. There's an appreciation, and I felt it. And when I came back here, I realised the divide between, and that's when it was like, fuck, you know what, we're more a sporting nation than anything else. Yeah. It's the same with acting. I mean, some of the best actors in the world come from Australia, but you know, they're all in the States.
Yeah.
Well, not all, but you know, I mean, I've been very general about it, but generally speaking, that's how it works. You know, people go overseas and to you know, feed their arts, because it's not a great industry here. There's still work. I don't mean to sound like a stick in the mud.
I know.
But there's just not enough.
Yep.
And that's it. And the other thing too is I was having a conversation with a very well respected drummer yesterday. I won't mention names, but there's the other thing too. We were talking about gigs, and you know, younger guys are coming through and they need to work and they want to work. And I totally get it. I was in that position. Anyone was in that position. And promoters for tours and stuff are latching onto that and have been. I mean, it's been happening for years, of course, but it still happens, where the money is just money for tours and stuff. On some tours, depending on the promoter and stuff, is the same money that was getting paid 15, 20 years ago, if not less. And there's guys that have been established for a while that just can't work for that kind of money, or not even so much out of principle, but you know, you have a level of self-respect. Of course. And younger guys are coming through and will say yes because they need the gig, they want the gig. Totally understandable. But the downside to that is that it does hurt the industry. Generally speaking, there's no way to control that. Unfortunately, and it's not. Again, it's not against anyone taking a gig for what they do. You know, everyone's got their own things to fulfil. Need and want, and that's totally understandable.
And even expanding a little bit on that, you talk about they're not going to grab the established guy, they're going to grab the younger guy that wants the gig. But then they even undersell them because there's just a lineup of more kids coming up. That'll almost do it for nothing.
Absolutely.
And you know, I know that, you know, when I was playing, I used to do some gigs for nothing to kind of establish yourself. But big things like that, you're doing people out of work, man.
You are, but not only that, but as a musician or just, if you go to see the show, there's the old adage of pay peanuts, get monkeys.
Yeah.
Without disrespect to those people, it's just the fact is that their ability is not as good as some of the other players.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Because the audience don't really care.
Yeah.
The promoter doesn't care.
Yeah.
There's bums on seats and that's it. That's just the way it is.
And with sort of modern pop music too, a lot of it is playing to tracks.
Yep.
And, sampled drums.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you know how to tune your kit or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
You've got these triggers and, and if
that's another thing, kids. You got to learn to tune your drums,
man.
Please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I was thinking back when you're telling the story about when you're playing in that Italian wedding band.
Yes.
When you were telling that story, I'm sort of started thinking about what we were just talking about then.
Yeah.
There's hardly those opportunities for the younger players now.
That's correct.
A lot of the weddings, it's DJs.
Yeah, DJs.
Or it's iPads
or
and
iPads.
Spotify and,
that's
and,
right.
and
that's right.
Apple Music.
It's different too. That wedding scene's different too now because there are other, what do you call them? Like other organisations like the Baker Boys and White Tree. These are all companies that put together the idea of having a what's the word? A list of musicians.
Yep.
On their books.
Right.
And they go out shopping for weddings, and say we've got.
Oh, they go shopping for the
wedding. They go shopping for the wedding, to get the gig, right. And then they from the list of musos they put together a band and they sell it.
Fascinating.
And so I've done some work for the White Tree, which is one of those ones, and they're pretty good operators. They're good operators, and I know Joel Burton, bass player, who's one of the guys. He was together.
The guy from the bass player store.
Yeah, that's right.
Annandale, yeah,
that's right.
Mm.
And they might have a weekend where they've got 5, 6 weddings. I don't know how many, but they've got a multitude of weddings, and they put the bands in. They handpick the musos for each one. They put them in there, and they charge the fee. They pay the muso, and which is a great thing because it gives musos work when they're not working. But that's what the wedding thing is.
Right.
What it used to be. But mind you, when I was doing it, I was strictly doing the Italian thing. And the Italian wedding receptions were strictly full-on Italians, It was all that. You play Italian music as well as English music. You do an Italian dance set and an English dance set. It was quite cheesy, but it was what it was. It was good fun. And you get paid cash. You got paid cash.
You got paid cash, yeah.
Italians, mate. Cash. I pay you cash. Play faster. Now I pay for you cash.
Very good.
Eat. You're too skinny. Mangia pasta.
All right. So what does the future hold?
Future holds more of the same.
Yep.
But better.
Okay. Yep.
I'm really pushing with the art thing.
Yep.
In my own time and my own thing. That's something there. The acting, the presenting, definitely. I'm working on something at the moment to up the presenting thing. I love TV presenting. I love it in the sense because I just feel comfortable. It's a comfortable thing. I love the acting thing too. But there's something about the presenting thing that attracts me.
Yep.
I just feel comfortable in that role.
Yep.
So I'm working on building that.
Awesome.
Music will always be there.
Yep.
It's just something that it's not that I have any plans to record an album or do anything. I just take it as it comes. More practice and more of that. I mean, the drums is just something that, you know how it is. Yeah. When you're behind the kit and it feels good, it just, nothing beats it. It just feels great.
Yep. So
there'll be more of that, but I'm definitely pushing towards the TV presenting thing and my artwork as well.
Brilliant.
That's where I'm at. That's where my energy is being pushed at the moment. The artwork is just, again, it's all the artistic, feeding the artistic side.
Yeah.
Cool. The TV presenting thing, I've been toying with the idea of my own show, which I was talking to you about before.
Yep.
And I know a few people in the industry that can kind of help out or contribute, that kind of thing. Again, that's something that I'll focus on.
When this podcast gets to 100,000 followers,
Yeah.
I'll promote you, man. I'll promote you.
Thanks, Stevie. Thanks, Stevie.
Even if I get five followers, I'll promote you, man. That's all good.
I'll tell you what, after this podcast, mate,
Oh, boom.
You're going to get at least another 2 followers.
Blow up. Episode number 2. Watch for that one.
It's a really good thing you're doing, though, I have to
Thank
say,
you,
the
thank
podcast thing. It's really cool, man.
Thank you very much.
The gig life, it's great. It's great. And there's a lot of good stories, good music.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Sydney,
I mean, just, episode 2, I've... You're the third interview I've recorded.
Yep.
So your interview will come out soon.
Yep.
Sorry, you're episode 3.
Episode 3,
I don't even know what episode you are.
Yeah, episode
Yeah.
3. Wow, you're down to 3 and you've lost count already. And you're a drummer.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Lose count after 4 if you have to.
I can't be a band leader, can I?
Can't
be an MD.
You've got to be able to count to 4, man. Come on.
4, fuck.
Waltz, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4.
Nah, we'll just track it.
Yeah, that's good.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's cool. It's exciting, man.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome, really awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Fab Omodei,
Yeah.
thanks for being on the show.
Stevie, thank you so much for having me, mate. I really appreciate it. I am a subscriber.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
I'll be listening to
We're on iTunes now.
You're on
As
iTunes?
of today.
Oh, well, there you
which
go.
is Friday the
That?
28th of September.
You're on iTunes?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it had to go through I had to present the show to, well, not present the show, sorry, but send the link to iTunes, and then they had to
Approve it.
And that came through today, so.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Awesome.
iTunes, folks. The
Yes.
gig life.
The gig life.
That's great, Stevie. Look, really, really good stuff, mate. Thanks for
awesome.
having me here. I'm honoured.
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Cheers, Fab.
Good on you, buddy.
Cheers, bro.
Take it easy.
All right, catch you, man.